The little ones are.
It's on two.
I'm muting now. And you brush it.
Okay, great. I'd like to call to order the ad hoc city council building review committee to order on August 15th at 5:32 p.m. Clerk, could you please take a roll call, please?
Council Ruggio,
Yeah.
Council Moran, Council Rubio,
Here.
Elizabeth Morera,
Here.
Jason Pedinato here, Chris Crawley. Yeah. Barbara Vesky, Kevin Miniotti. Here. Kevin Barrett. Here. We have 7 in attendance.
Okay, first thing on the agenda is public input period, and we have 2 folks that have signed up. First will be Michael Pompelli.
Thanks. There were a couple of numbers thrown out by the city on the renovation of City Hall for public consumption. $92.3 million for a complete renovation of City Hall and $10.1 million to demolish the building. And a city that's struggling to fund its school system and just raise property taxes above the state cap, it seems like a no-brainer to give up on City Hall. But these numbers do not tell the whole truth. $92.3 million isn't just to stop the tower from leaking. It's for a complete renovation to create a state-of-the-art facility within the walls of the old building. If we demolish or sell City Hall, the alternative would have to be a new building or this, which is clearly not a state-of-the-art facility. And it's removed from our city's downtown. So moving forward, please be honest with the numbers presented to the public. How much would it cost to just stabilize the tower and leave City Hall as it is? Or how much would it cost to build out a comparable state-of-the-art facility inside this building or in a new building downtown compared to a complete $92 million renovation of City Hall? And since the city's justification for purchasing this Freight Street building in the first place, for purchasing it outright instead of leasing it, was that if it's not needed, it can be resold. How much could the cost to renovate the old City Hall building be offset by selling this one or leasing it out? These are the comparisons we need to inform a decision. Even if keeping Old City Hall ends up costing slightly more, it is in reality nowhere near the $82 million differential that was presented to the public earlier this year. And the premium may be worth it to keep the center of our city government in the center of our city and in our iconic building.
Thank you so much. And next is Amanda Van Hel.
I want to partially reiterate what my husband said, that we should be looking for ways to justify keeping City Hall rather than looking for ways to justify tearing it down. That we should be finding ways to do anything we can to preserve our heritage buildings, that Pawtucket has so much potential. That downtown corridor is incredibly beautiful. You have the City Hall, and you have Slater Mill, and you have the waterfall right there. And you could do so much with that space, and nothing is being done. And if that building, which is, you know, a WPA building, is the classic, you know, like historic building, if that building is torn down, we lose yet another historic building. Add it to the list. The city seems very ready to tear down things, to buy buildings, to create holes in the ground, and nothing is brought up in their place. Once that building is gone, we cannot bring it back. We need to do everything we can to look into saving it first, to look into saving what is beautiful about Pawtucket. Because honestly, I was recently looking at a picture someone posted online of what used to be downtown West Warwick. And it was the main intersection with all these beautiful old historic buildings. And this was on a Reddit board, and someone reacted, what happened? Now it's all strip malls and ugly. And the response was, well, you know, the money ran out and people just tore everything down. And now look at that town. What brings people to West Warwick? Literally nothing, except for maybe, you know, chain restaurants and malls. We don't want that to happen to our city. We have a beautiful downtown. We really have the chance to save what we have left.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the public input.
Online.
Anybody online?
Nobody like online.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so Council Rubio, you should take the next item, the next two.
Item number 2, committee meetings for January 30th, 2025. I'm going to approve these.
Also,
Roll call vote.
second by Jason.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Yeah, all right. All right, so it's been moved by Council Rubio, seconded by Jason, that we approve the committee minutes from January 30th, 2025. Any discussion on this? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 3, discussion and selection of vendors from the Rhode Island Master Price Agreement, MPA. From whom bids will be requested for an estimate on the cost of restoring City Hall on Roosevelt Avenue. I move to take this up. Can I get a second?
All right, so it's been moved by Council Rubio, seconded by Liz Modell, that we take up the discussion and selection of vendors from the Rhode Island Master Price Agreement, MPA, for whom bids will be requested for an estimate on the cost of restoring City Hall on Roosevelt Avenue. All right, so we have Mr. Peter Wingate here, our purchasing director, who can help us navigate through the process of getting bids through the MPA. We also have a director of DPW, Mr. Chris Crawley, who can kind of help us go through and navigate through the ones that were selected to bring forward and the reason for that. But we also have the entire MPA list. So if anybody has any questions or wants to speak to any of those as well. So I'd like to first go to Mr. Crowley. Could you explain the ones why you brought the companies forward that you did off of the MPA?
Yes, working with the purchasing department, Peter Wingate. After the last meeting, we voted on to get a second cost estimate for the necessary repairs to City Hall. So we went on the master price agreement for the services of to do the budget, and it was under MPA 430 and 584. We looked at all the vendors that were on this list, and we cross-reference with anyone that's already doing business under the city of Pawtucket. This is a small, task. It's not a big task to get cost estimates. A lot of the firms won't, they'll sub this kind of work out. So we looked over to try to get one that's already doing business with the city. They already have all the paperwork. They have a contract number with the city. That's where we got the, I think there was 6 of them here. We gave a quick overview of each company. It doesn't mean that we can't pick someone from one of these other, we would just have to do the paperwork and secure them as a vendor with the city. It just, to kind of streamline it a little bit. If the committee feels that one of these 6, vendors that we want to choose from, we can go out and ask them for a cost estimate. We're gonna do an informal RFQ on what we're gonna do once we decide, do we want to go with all 6? Do we want to go with 3? Do we want to go with whatever amount we feel that we're all comfortable with? And we'll work with Peter, and we'll do an informal RFQ on this is what we're looking for, cost estimate, just like that, what we were submitted with Downs. And then we'll get a cost estimate for that, and then we'll get a purchase order, and we'll proceed with the city hall cost estimate. That, I don't know if Peter wants to mention add anything, or.
Well, yeah. Do you have anything to add?
No, just, going over it, if we're going to piggyback to state MPA, you have quite a bit of latitude. As Chris mentioned, based on the projected, or estimated cost of doing this study. It's a pretty low number, so the thresholds that the state gives us, for instance, on MPA 584, if we're estimating under 25,000, which I believe we're comfortably under that, we have latitude to simply go directly to any one of the firms listed, or we can pick as many as we'd like. So it's really up to you. You 3, or as Chris said, all 6. And we put together a short mini bid for them to look at. We have a deadline to submit their proposals to you to review. And that if you'd like, normally what we do in our RFQ process is we rank the proposals. Say we rank them 1, 2, 3. You may want to invite the top ranked firm to a meeting here to discuss their approach to the proposal, because really that's what your vote is going to be on, is it's going to be on approach, which is one thing we are prevented from doing when we reach out to firms on the MPA 584, because it's mostly architecture and design. We're not, by state law, we're not allowed to ask for their cost or their rates per hour or anything. We can only ask for their qualifications. Once we've made a decision on who we like best, then we can start talking money about. And if we come to agreement, then we can proceed with the contract.
So would it be an instance where if this committee decided to pick what they felt was the best firm, then could the direction be now, of course, we have to work to find out how we're going to pay for work with the administration and how much we can spend. Would it be where this committee would say, okay, we would like to go with this committee up with this company up to a certain amount? I mean, could you do that?
Yeah, we could approach them and say, we like you. We want you to put together a proposal for us to sign. And then we can tell them that the number that we can't exceed is.
And we're okay with doing it that way.
Yeah, that way would be the best way. Unfortunately, with architects, we can't ask them up front when we first contact them for a proposal that includes this.
And this MPA 430, what's the difference between that and the 584?
430 is more of an owner's rep. Thing, which has higher thresholds. Either way, we're way under either one of them.
Okay,
430, if you, I'm not sure exactly how Chris's list breaks down between the two ways.
I think most of them are from the 430.
30, yeah. That would be more sense.
Yeah.
In that case, we could, I would still recommend doing it as an RFQ. You know, I just think justice gives the city the most protection, least exposure. And then, you know, again, if you have a hard budget number that you've arrived at with the finance department or the administration, and that they have to tailor that over to if they want the work. If not, that's the idea behind ranking them, is that you would just move to option number 2 and so forth until you can come.
did you have a question, Hazel? Saw your hand up and then we kept talking.
I did. So have we researched these companies and seen if they're in good standing, if projects have been completed on time, et cetera, or is that part of the process once we move forward with asking for these bids or the RFQs?
Yeah, right now, we don't, I'm not, I don't have, any information that say that they're not in good standards with the city. I don't,
Yeah, these are all.
Just
I
wondering.
certainly don't.
Yeah.
Are there budgets?
Yeah.
Have their budgets been?
Yeah, we have, we're working on a couple of things with Clean Energy now, is just as one example.
Mhm.
All of these companies are real pros. You know, they're all certainly qualified to do what you need done for this job. I wouldn't foresee any obstacles, once they're hired, that if you give them a reasonable deadline, that they would.
I got a question. So down construction, they're gonna be working for the city overseeing the project, correct? That's how, when this whole project started, Downs was looking out for the best interests of the city of Pawtucket. So we're not working with Downs Construction anymore?
So what we wanted to do, the whole idea was, we got the estimate from Downs, but this is such a real important topic. With such a historical building, we wanted to get a second estimate.
So,
We thought that would be the right thing to do, and have another company come in and give another estimates and compare that to what we got with Downs.
so I thought this committee was to decide where to move forward. It's not up to this committee to vote on tearing down just the tower, keeping City Hall. We were here to overlook and then present it to the council. And the council from there is gonna take our opinion from this committee, saying we recommend moving forward to remodel up-to-date City Hall, keeping the tower, bringing it to state of the art. Or we recommend tearing down the tower, keeping the rest of City Hall, and moving forward that way. I thought this committee was here to recommend to bring it to the council. I just feel we got like a realistic number, the 92.3, and then the 10.1 to demo it. This committee should be here looking at, all right, I feel my best, keeping the city, we got this property here, renovate City Hall, whatever it takes. If it takes 6 years, we go into the budget and we can get grants if we redo the whole City Hall. But we're gonna go out and spend money to go get another bid to say, all right, we're 91 too. So we just took that money and spent it. And this committee is only here to look at, are we gonna demo it? It's a recommendation to the city council. I think once we're spending money, that it's foolish that the city spend it. We don't even know where we're going with this property. You know, we just had taxpayers speak, they would love to see City Hall kept downtown. So we're gonna go that route. The board, the committee votes and bring it up to the council, leave it up to the council to go out and get the prices. This committee was decided where are we gonna go with it? and then it's gonna go to this council and go out of, it shouldn't be a taxpayer. Me and Kevin are both taxpayers who sit on this board. We shouldn't be making a decision on, it's a recommendation. This board was for a recommendation to save City Hall, demo City Hall, or sell it as it is and let somebody else take care of the demo and do whatever they want. That's what this committee was about. We got a realistic number. And it just seems like we're gonna go pay these contractors to give us more bids. To say, all right, they're $1 million less, $2 million less. I think once the city council and this committee agrees what path we're gonna go, then it should be up to the city council to pick the contractors and say, all right, we're gonna go out, we wanna remodel City Hall, we're gonna keep the tower, or we're not gonna redo City Hall without the tower. But I think we had discussions by keeping the tower, we could get more grant money because it's existing, what it reaches into. But we already had numbers, we keep having these meetings, and now we're gonna have other contractors come in here and sit in front of us and say, it's gonna cost you this, it's gonna cost you that, it's gonna cost you that. We have realistic numbers. All right, we all know from the time Downs did their program to now, it might be more. This committee, I thought we were looking at what direction to bring it to the city council and say, all right, we feel, try to get as much grants. We have a place we can stay in right now. We're not paying rent. We own Freight Street right here. We can move City Hall, we can renovate, whatever time it takes. We own downtown. It's not costing us a dime except for the construction work. And then down the road, if we decide to keep it, once everything, we do the transition, we could sell Freight Street, you could lease Freight Street, but we're here, or we're gonna say, all right, we're gonna stay at Freight Street forever and go get prices for the demo and give that to the council. Or prices to demo the tower and keep City Hall. I thought this committee was here to decide what way we're gonna go with this property. Not just keep going out getting prices, because every time you go, they're gonna charge the city. No contractors knowing what we're doing is gonna sit here and give us paperwork like Down did for free. And they're all realistic numbers. I think Down's a respectable company. The city hired Downs in the beginning. And if they didn't think their numbers were legit, we wouldn't have hired them. So why are we gonna go hire Gil Bain or somebody else to come here and throw numbers all back in front of this committee? I think it's a waste of taxpayers' money. And we're here not to pick the company. If we were saying, all right, this committee's here to pick, to remodel City Hall, and we were all sitting on it, then okay, let's go out and get the bids. Let's see what each company's gonna come with us. So if they charge you $10,000, $15,000, all right, let's get our best price, what we can do, project time, what they're gonna do with us, who's doing the work. But we're not at that stage, so we're gonna just spend money to come back and say, we're gonna sell it as is and let somebody else take over the property. Or we're gonna demo it now. When we could have took that money, we could have numbers to work with. I just think we're just dragging out meetings. I think this should be up to the council. Once this committee decides what we're gonna do with this property, it should be up to the council to go hire the company in the city and say, this is a company, Chris Crowley's maintenance in charge of building it. He can oversee, work with the city, recommend this company, worked really good with, they had great reviews. I prefer that. But that's at the point, what direction we're going with. We keep having meetings, and that was one of the discussions. We're only here to bring it to the council. What's the best angle to look at?
So you're right, this is a committee that's gonna make a recommendation to the council. However, what we're trying to do now is just get another estimate, because I believe most of the committee, what I've heard, a lot of the committee members wanted to get a second estimate. I think there's people in the public that want that too. It is money, definitely is money. I don't like to spend taxpayer money. Matter of fact, one of the reasons why we didn't have the meeting earlier is because we had to see if we were gonna pass the budget, because we had to go over the cap. Okay, we didn't know if we didn't go over that cap, there was gonna be no money to do this at all. But we want to make sure we're doing our due diligence and get that estimate. And if these numbers are correct, and I have no reason to doubt Downs, but it would be good to have you know, a checks and balances to have another company give us an estimate of what the cost would be. And then at that point, we make a decision as a committee, what we should recommend, whether we can, is City Hall something that we can, afford to save? Or, for City Hall, or is it something that we have to move into another direction? That's the recommendation that this committee, will be making. But to get another cost estimate, they're not hired to do the work. They're just, we're trying to find through this MPA list is, a vendor that will turn around and give us those cost estimates. And you're right, it does go up. I believe Down says about an average of 4%, per year, and that could be even higher now with, you know, the volatility of the market. But that's what we're trying to do, because that's what, you know, I want to make sure we're doing our due diligence and we have a second set of eyes looking at it. Is, you know, as long as it's not too much money, you know, if it comes out where it's 40 grand, 50 grand, that might be too much.
So I got a question, Mr. Chairman. So now we're gonna go out for a price. What are we gonna ask these companies to price on?
The same thing that Downs did, and that's what we're gonna have a
So
conversation.
knocking down the tower, keeping City Hall,
So if you,
demoing the whole thing and renovating the tower and everything to,
Believe that was.
so it's all gonna be, we're gonna have numbers here for three different things.
Compare.
yeah, exactly. So this way we can compare those numbers and see how accurate, you know, these two, are they in tandem? Are they, you know, realistic to both companies? And this way we can make our best informed decision to recommend to the council. Because, you know, it's that $92 million to renovate the whole thing is a lot of money, but I also know the health and safety concerns in the building. And once you start going into the electricals and all those interior, they call it the veins of the building, right? You know, it tends to jack up those prices, and those need to be taken care of. And I've always said, every million that we bond out, it's 50,000 for the taxpayer a year for 20 years before we even talk about interest. So it's, we want to make sure, you know, if this numbers come back really different, you know, we can address that. If they come back the same, we'll address that as well. And then we can make that recommendation. Do we recommend to the council that we should fix City Hall? We should just tear that tower down. We should just demolish City Hall based on the numbers and the other conversations that we're having. But I believe getting a second estimate would allow us to do our due diligence.
So we're talking about three things right here. And, you know, demo City Hall, 10.1 million. I'm a builder, there's people here buy real estate. Even though it's in tough shape, maybe not for City Hall, but for some other project. If we're going through the stages, could we look at what is City Hall worth if we sold it to somebody on a fair market value right now? So as another decision, than spending $10.1 million of the city money to demo it, to just have an empty lot down there on the river. Where if we decide not to be in City Hall, at least somebody could rehab that building so it would still look like downtown Pawtucket, which started there. Then before we demo it, we're getting prices on demoing it, remodeling it. Nobody gave us a price to sell it. If we decide, because if we demo it, it's raw land, it's worth nothing. What would it be worth? Like when they purchased this property, they had a company come out, appraise the company. What is it worth to somebody? You take Old Jenks Junior High School. It was run down. They built a new Jenks Junior High School. They went in there and renovated that building, make it a housing. So old buildings might not be for City Hall, but it could be used for something else, and it does have a value. So before we send 10 million to knock it down, maybe we could sell it for $10 million and take that money and do something else. Where if it's up to this board to bring to the council for what's the best thing to do with City Hall, maybe we should have a company do appraisal. If we were going to sell City Hall tomorrow, what would it be worth on a fair market value? You know, you have condos across the river that they remodeled, and those condos are selling high end. You might have developers, St. Edward's Church on Whedon Street. Developer came in, left the church, left the rectory, and rebuilt and made condos in there.
Right.
So before we knock down a building, you could, like you ride down, it's still lit like the old church. Before we knock down City Hall, that City Hall, I think it's a beautiful building. I would try to keep it as much as we could, but that's my opinion. But if not, maybe sell it to a developer that would keep the look of it, maybe take down the tower, but it's a beautiful architect there.
It is, no, there's no doubt.
So I would like maybe to get a price on what that value is. So if we're gonna decide what we're gonna do to the council, maybe say, maybe we should sell it. And take that money and build a new police and fire state of the art.
So I think, you know, as we, well, when we first started this committee, the thing was to figure out if we can, and what to do with City Hall. And the biggest thing is the pricing on it, right? How much it's gonna cost the taxpayer and how much in the city. And then the next steps would be, what could we do if we can't save it as a City Hall? And so that was the process we were going down. And so by getting a second estimate, this committee can decide, well, maybe it's okay, maybe we can do something to save it as a City Hall, or maybe it's too rich for the blood. And now we move on to, you know, what you were saying, Kevin, looking at, well, what could we do with the building? You know, if it's not gonna remain a City Hall, but we haven't got to that point yet.
You know, and like one of the first meetings I brought up, were they considering building a state of art police, fire, safety, EMA director? And they said, yeah, they had property. Like, what would that cost the city to build? I'm sure there was talk in council meetings and everything that doesn't reach the public because it got into my ears. And when I brought it up, there was 2 properties that they were looking at to build a police fire all as one. What would that cost? If that was gonna cost $40 million and the whole renovation of City Hall, that's the police, fire, and City Hall, was the whole building. So if you're gonna build a police and fire and it's gonna cost us $40 million, right off of the bat, you take that 40 million and you dump it into the downtown project. Now it brings it down to a $52 million job. Because they're gonna renovate the police and fire while it's being done. So we're gonna have a state of the art, not just town or City Hall, the police and the fire department would be state of the art. So we gotta look at the whole thing. You know, we sit here, we hear partial things. You know, to go build a brand new state of the art police and fire is gonna cost some money.
Yeah, and
So we're looking at City Hall. We're not looking at the police and fire, the 2 wings on the left and the right side of City Hall. You gotta take that into consideration. So if the police and fire cannot move into this City Hall and to Freight Street. They might be able to run their dispatch. We're gonna lose our station, but we could keep the fire station, downtown station running while they're renovating part of City Hall.
And those are the things that we're gonna get to. But the purpose tonight was to just look at, you know, trying to pick estimates, to try to, vendors to try to get an estimate, to see if those numbers are, you know, are correct. Are they in line with and in step with what Downs did? And those are definitely the conversations we're gonna be having in future meetings, and not too much in the distant future, because as you see on the agenda, I want to put the next 2 meetings up, because now that we're at this point, I want to set the next 2 meetings up based on what we're going to have for timelines for the RFQ when they get back to us, and we'll pick a vendor to turn around and give us an estimate, and then we can start proceeding forward. If it turns out that it is too much to do for a City Hall, then those are definitely conversations, and probably get an estimate at some point throughout this process within the next 2 meetings. Probably look at that and bring that forward, you know, what the estimate is.
And like I said before, we decide, I would like to see what that property's worth.
Yeah.
Selling it as is, if we could get a number on that.
We can do that. We can definitely do that. Definitely do that.
And how much would it cost?
Do what?
Get an appraisal.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's the thing.
So
The
that's
appra-
another added.
So, yeah, so the cost of, you know, and as a committee, we realize that it's an extra burden on the taxpayer to do another, the appraisal for the cost money.
Yeah.
But,
So
so that's true, but as far as the estimate, we realize that it's gonna cost a little bit of money. But I think it's part of our due diligence to get a second look at it. I really do. I don't wanna spend the money, but I think it's part of the process to get a second opinion.
So items, if I may,
Yes.
Chair. I know that I remember Mr. Patrick had responded that, getting a third party estimator, how much it could possibly cost. And that he mentioned about $7,500 to $2,000.
Yeah.
And I know we have about 6 options here. Can we talk about how we think the best process would be to select that second estimate? Because I mean, there's a whole lot of different type of history here, and I mean, I've seen 2 out of all of them that have worked with other city halls like Robinson Green.
Same thing.
Okay.
Same stuff, yeah.
I don't see a lot who have worked with city halls or restoring
Yeah.
historical buildings, so I guess my question is, can we create maybe some sort of process to how we navigate selecting that second estimate? Right, or if you could recommend
Yeah.
how we can select those.
Every vendor that we did a small profile on, and then also anyone that's on this MPA, they're all qualified, like Peter mentioned, it's a cost estimate. They pretty much every construction project, you always get a cost estimate, like Kevin had mentioned. So, you know, I mean, every vendor here is qualified to be able to perform that. It comes down to making sure that when we put the RFQ together, it's apples to apples to what Downs quoted us on, right? Because we want to get the true number, so it has to match up. Like we previous meetings, we asked about, someone asked, what would it take to demo the tower? How much to demo the building?
Yep.
That's why we got that price, right? Now, I mean, we were asking, well, are those numbers right? And until we go out and request a second, cost estimate, we don't know, right? So well, it's been about a year that the cost estimates, it could be fluctuate a little, like Dave Patrick said, you can figure that percentage out. You know, we might not necessarily do the construction until 3-4 years by the time it happens, right? It could be another 10-15% by that time, right? Or it could be less, you know, I mean, based on how, everything's going, right? So, like, I think everyone in the committee, we're just trying to get all the information that we can to make that decision of what we want to do, right? I don't think anyone's saying, take the tower down, you know, I think it's just over conversations that we had that what would it cost, right?
And I mean,
So
in
if
the
we're gonna make that
process, keeping it
decision,
transparent.
is it, you know, I mean, if we're gonna get 5 million for the building, it's gonna take us 10 million to take it down. Well, why wouldn't we sell it, right? If we, you know, I mean, if we're going that way, not to say we're going that way, but you know, I think that's what we want to know. What's best as, you know, I mean, I'm a taxpayer in the city too. What is the best, you know, direction the city wants to go in?
And I think to Kevin's point, maybe, you know, what we could do when we go out for this, we write up the RFQ, maybe we can throw the caveat of, can you give us an appraisal of the property at the same time, so we can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone without adding like a secondary appraiser fee, you know what I mean? So maybe we could.
Yeah, I believe that would be a different vendor that would,
Yeah, so-
Typically,
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman,
they can sub it
Okay.
out.
yeah.
before you pay for our appraisal, you know, if we decide, all right, maybe the board's leaning towards demo on it. At that point, if we decide to, instead of, then before we decide to demo it, I would like to see what the property's worth. So if you
Yeah.
wanna hold off on getting their appraisal,
Right,
if we decide that we're gonna keep the building and go forward with it, then don't waste the money on spending it.
that's.
But if we're at the point where we're like, we can't fix it, we don't have the money, but we're leaning towards the demo. But before we demo it, then maybe look at that's all, we don't spend that money right
You
now.
know, and when we're looking at these numbers, these are numbers of like the actual cost, fixing, you know, rehabbing the whole thing, demoing the tower. The decisions, you know, it's not. We're gonna turn around and say, I think as a committee after discussions, like, well, it's a lot of money to demo, it's a lot to do that, and then those options that you were speaking about will come. We'll talk to the administration, we'll talk to DPW, see what the recommendations are. Is it something worth demoing? Is it something worth selling? Is it something, you know, that we can try to save this? I've said it before, it's part of the architectural iconography of the city, this building, you know? And so I understand the emotional and the iconic stature of the building. Can we afford to fix it as a city? Can the taxpayer bear that burden, right? And that's part of what we have to decide to recommend to the council, say, it's just too much, or maybe we could do this. We've already had discussions about grants, and there's not a whole heck of a lot of grant money out there for this project. And it's small percentages, and that's unfortunate. You know, when you look at the schools, very fortunate, you know, 85%, maybe even 90%. It's a different ballgame, this thing. Also,
I saw that Cumberland was rehabbing is that their city hall right at the corner of Broad?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's it, City Hall. Yeah, they're doing, I'm not sure what they're doing, but they're doing something.
To get any maybe communication out for them, just reach out to see, you know, what grants they applied for.
Well, we did
If
have,
there's any other municipalities that have had to kind of take over this huge
well, with the,
undertaking.
we could look at that. I know we did have a consultant that explained a lot of these grants and what's out there. We also had a Preservation Society come out and talk about that too. And then once you start looking at the preservation, if you get a grant, then it's very specific, yeah, and which is fine, because you want to preserve. So, but those are the caveats of those grants. So, we could do that, but I think let's, you know, what we really need to do is tonight is just find out, do we want to send this RFQ out to all these vendors?
That's right.
And then talk to Peter. Peter can kind of step us through it. We can tell him what we're looking for. We'll leave the appraisal part out of it for this time being, you know, if that's the will of the committee. And then we'll take it from there. If you know, did you want to kind of, you know, kind of go over the ones that you picked, just like, you know, what's your dealings with Sims? You don't have to go into details, or Peter, you've had some, what's your deal with the pre, yada, yada. Do you want to go really through the committee?
Yeah,
real quick?
some of them
like-
are with the school department, did some
I
work.
remember SMMA, I do remember that.
Yeah, some of them with the city. You know, I don't have, like I said, it doesn't matter to me. This is a cost estimate. You know, any project, that's what we always do, a cost estimate. Once we start getting to a design and designing all, then, you know, I mean, you normally do another cost estimate based off of the design for budget, but it's either gonna go up and down. This is just a ballpark of saying, okay, this is what, until you really dive deep into the building and start designing it and doing your studies. You know, some prices could go up, some prices could go down. Normally it goes up because you start investigating and finding more issues than what you just see, you know, with the naked eye, right?
Tear off the Band-Aid, as
Yeah,
they say, right?
yeah,
Once you tear off the Band-Aid, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, to us, it's, yeah, I mean, you can pick anyone and we would be satisfied. I don't think there's, you know, I don't have anyone that I work with any more than others, that I'd be happy to work with any of them to get a cost estimate.
Mr. Chairman, as we're looking at this, I noticed some of these companies are out of Massachusetts. If we're gonna spend money, maybe we should try to find a company that is a Rhode Island company and give the money to a Rhode Island company then instead of a Massachusetts company. For now, if we're just going out for a bid, try to keep it in our own state. Support our local businesses.
I think some were a lot of them were also in Rhode Island too.
Yeah, but if we're eliminating them, try to keep it in our state and employ the people in our state.
And then again, some had, their portfolios had, you know, landmarks and structural upgrades and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of the construction companies, they have satellite offices in Mass and Rhode Island, Connecticut, some of them, but, you know.
Yeah.
So like Robinson really stood out for me. I don't
Yeah.
know them personally and I don't.
Like right here, Dupree, you have offices in Providence, Newport, Boston, Worcester, and Milford, Mass of April 2025.
You know, I definitely understand what you're saying, Kevin. But I think maybe if the committee decides, say that, so they got 6 of them, we're hoping that they're gonna come back with bids. I hope, you know. And if they don't come back with
That's true.
bids,
They might not.
Yeah.
if they don't
Yeah.
come back with bids, then we're gonna have to go to the whole MPA list, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
go into, right? But maybe that can be part of our decision making. If you've got 2 that are pretty equal and, you know, one's in Rhode Island, there's a little weight to that, you know, that if that's, you know, we could do it that way too. But I think to the taxpayer, we gotta go for, you know, hopefully what's most economically feasible too, you know? That's just, some of what I feel. And I do want to echo what Councilor Rubio mentioned. There was one that had a lot of historical experience, really. But I don't want to just do that one. That could be definitely a weight as we're talking about who do we go for this secondary opinion. Yeah, they more skilled in the older architecture than say Downs was, and they see a different price, whether it's higher or lower. Right, so that could be a weight that we use. But I think the more bids we get, I don't want to inundate us with it. I think 6 isn't too bad of a number. But hopefully they all come back with a bid,
Well, that's what I was gonna mention, that, a lot of times, Peter knows, we reach out to, I always try to, Peter usually likes to see, 3 quotes, bids.
Yes.
When we reach out through an MPA. So, we try to do maybe 5 or 6, anticipating maybe 2 or 3 might not even answer, right? So at least now that we can say, okay, here's the 6 or 5 that we reached out to. And if there's only 3 that submitted something, then, it's gonna come down to how busy these companies are. This is not a big project, so, there's pros and cons that they can come in and get this cost estimate and they can assign somebody to handle it. They could be, too many big projects and they don't want to be bothered with it. It's, you won't know until you go out, but to answer your question, when we review them, those are the questions that we ask. We can rate them based on the qualifications, what they're offering. We can put all those in on the RFQ, that when we rate them, and these are the reasons why we rated it based on what percentage each one is.
Yeah, there's always a weight. I was involved a lot with some of the school construction back in the day, and for the RFPs, and you would have a number of them that would present, but there was always a weighted scale, and depending on what the committee decided was important and what wasn't, and then that's how you would choose. You would go with.
So I got a question. We had the guy from the Masonry Institute here. They're a nonprofit. And they said they would recommend people that there's restoration on buildings. Did they ever give us any names? Did anybody reach out to get any names of the companies that they would recommend for the restoration? Because of the way City Hall was built, he said there was only a few properties. He looked at from the Masonry Institute. And I was just wondering if anybody reached out to any of those companies.
I know, we did, there was some talk with the Masonry Institute, and we're gonna have Jason talk about that at the next meeting. And we were talking about seeing if they, input on what they've seen from Downs, but, my understanding is it has to be a full, or, they're like architects involved, like not just the cost estimate, it's gonna be deeper than that for them to take a look at it, if I'm correct. Am I correct with that, Jason? So, but we could, again, we could also reach out to them.
So we're still using
We were
if we move
we were
forward,
using-
we're gonna reach out to them to
Well,
take a look at.
we were using it, the decision was made to use the MPA because that is, it just, a most cost effective, right? Because then you have to go out for an RFP, if they're not out of the MPA, right?
Yeah, because Dave Patrick, if you remember during that meeting, that he said that he does work with them, the masons there. So, yeah, I mean, most of anyone that's restoring it will work with most of these vendors and, you know, so. Like you mentioned that they're not really like a cost estimate. They'll do like the cement work cost estimate, but we're looking for a cost estimate overall. So that's a little different than.
And if they're not part of the MPA, you know, then it's a different scope of what we're trying to do here. correct?
That would be more into when we start going into the construction part of it.
What was that?
Yeah, we'll have to be more, we'd have to look into more publicly advertised,
Right, right.
which we could do, but that's more like 16 weeks. as
6
opposed
years.
to-
And, you know, the object would
And this
be,
would still be competitive,
right,
which is what we're.
right. So that's where, we are in this process. Now, Peter, what would the timeline be, whether it's once for all, when you write up the RFQ? You know, what timeline would you be looking to get that, you know, if it's back?
So I would say, you know, whenever we want to greenlight this, Chris and I can get the specs together for the mini bid, to send to, you know, I would just say, just that it's all 6 of them, you know, I mean, it's obviously up to you, but I don't see any harm in that. It's not a lot more work or a lot more paperwork.
There's no fee.
And there's no fee, I won't charge you, don't set up a salary. And, there's not a lot more paperwork involved, and like I said, we may only get 2 or 3 responses out of the 6. We usually what we want to do is to give them a deadline for the proposals and have that deadline coincide with your next scheduled meeting.
And that's exactly what I'm writing down
Yeah.
here. So, is the level of aggression too strong if we are looking at trying to have our next meeting? If we're not to this point yet, but is a 4-week window of them getting it to us so we could have a meeting the 5th week down the road? Is that too aggressive?
No, that's fine. I mean, I think typically by state law, you have to leave a bid open for a minimum of 7 days.
Okay.
And up to, there actually is a maximum of 21 days. That's not really enforced. The maximum is not, it's not a hardship.
21 days, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't really cause a hardship if we
Yeah.
decide to go over that a little bit. We lose.
Okay.
But under 7, yeah, you can get in trouble. You're not giving them enough time to prepare a proper.
Mhm.
But yeah, and depending, usually what we do, is we, sometime in the interim from when the date of, release of the bid to the various vendors, the firms. And the deadline usually allow, for it's called a request for information period. So they may come back to us with questions about what we want, and how we want it. We can have those questions directed to me or Chris or both. The process of answering questions is, that even if we only get questions from one of the 6, we send the answers to all of them so that everyone is working with the same. That has to occur somewhere about halfway through the process. It doesn't have to happen in the meeting. We just have to, Chris and I would collect the questions and put them together with the answers in a brief addendum and send that back out to all of them on the same deadline. They may not have, you know, so, they all use pretty standard software for this sort of thing, so I think they may not, but you know, it's a big complicated building, so you never know. But that doesn't have to be the meeting, you know, so that doesn't have to delay you at all. I would say about 2 weeks into it, you have that sort of period, and you know, no more questions. Give them 2 more weeks to put together their bids and have them drop them off. They can drop them off to me or to Rick. Or Michelle, you know, however you want, it doesn't matter.
Still hearing? I don't see the blue one. Okay.
And that's it. Then you would go over them together and start to decide.
So the next steps after that would be, whenever we have our next meeting, would be to go through those bids, weigh them out, have the conversations that, you know, that we're having now, and just
Yeah.
deeper dive into it.
If you agree and have them bring a proposal, we reach out to the highest ranked one, have the next meeting, and then you could vote on it live. you know, if it's satisfying.
And keep in mind that, like Kevin mentioned, we're not spending any money right now, right? So,
We're not.
yeah, I mean, when the bids come in, and if the committee feels that, you know, and the bid is too high and, you know, what is the value, to continue? You know, I mean, we can make that decision too,
Yeah, we make a
Right.
decision not to go out.
right? And you might say, well, you know, and to spend X amount, you know, I mean, it's not, you know,
Right.
but I would definitely, at least a minimum 10 days for to keep it open with, just in case they do have some questions. I don't anticipate too many questions, but
No.
you never know.
And you know, as far as the contract itself goes, I'm not sure. This is my one question. I'm not sure about who, you know, the way to vote to authorize the contract would probably go through the council. It wouldn't have a sense of my board. As the city council supersedes.
So this committee would have to recommend approval of that and then to the council for the council's approval.
Or does the committee that's.
I don't know what-
We could
Sometimes,
just
I mean,
accept.
sometimes the council gives the authority to the committee to act, sometimes they don't, sometimes they would go through the. You know, sort of like with the audit, you know, it goes to the finance committee and then it goes to the council to approve up or down. So I mean,
And that,
whatever the council.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's between, that's.
that,
between
one, you know, once it gets an approval from here, if
Yeah.
that is the pathway, then this committee could recommend to the council and, you know, request their approval to go ahead and go
Right,
forward.
because
I appreciate you bringing that up.
most contracts, sorry, would have to come to my board, or we could skip past that.
Because it's the MPA.
because- And the city council is a higher authority. Versus one.
So does anybody have any feedback on any of these vendors? Does anybody think, you know, we should go with all of them, eliminate any of them?
There's no harm in just like kind of just hearing what Peter and Chris said, just shoot out all six, maybe we get 2 or 3 back. I think if we limit ourselves to a certain number, we'll probably end up maybe missing something that we could have gotten if we didn't limit it to, if we let it to be all 6. So I mean, maybe we can decide if we have a preference now, but maybe we don't hear back from them even at all. So I mean, my feeling is just to go with all 6 and see what we get back.
For the Downs process, did they have questions, just for curiosity?
No.
And again, you know, just want to reiterate, you know, there is money involved in this and, you know, it's a pause. You have to pause on that. But to do, you know, hopefully it comes back at a number that we can, that's, you know, that we can afford. And this way we have, we're doing our due diligence to make sure that those numbers are accurate. You know, I have no reason not to believe they are not accurate, but again, I'm not a contractor, so, you know, it's a professional, another set of eyes. I think it would be prudent for us to do that, so that, you know, we have 2 folks here speaking in public about, you know, how important this building is. So I think it's part of due diligence, as long as it's not something that's out of our range that we can't, you know, afford, so. With that being said,
We could vote on.
well, we have to have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve bids for all
So approve to go out for our,
for an RFP,
so yeah, may I?
RFQ.
RFQ, I'm sorry.
Give, yeah, Pete, Storm Gate, to put together a queue to all 6 vendors.
There's 6 or 7.
Well, I think one was twice. I think they were on both.
Okay,
6.
there's 6.
Yeah, but there was one on both. One on, that was on 584 and 430.
Okay,
I sent out 6.
Yeah, you did. I know, that's what she was saying, so.
okay, Rick, 6.
And do I, have, any- thank you. Sorry, second. Any discussion? That would be a roll call, but I do have, a little bit of discussion on it. So are we gonna look at, if this goes forward, what's timeline do you think it's gonna take to get this first part done? If you're saying the max is 21 days, do you think you still gotta write it up and reach out, right? So what are we looking at?
I think Chris, we could get this out to.
Well, next.
Jim, but you are.
So, and just keep in mind, you know, I understand we wanna, streamline it, but also if we restrict how long the time, some vendors will say, I'm not even gonna, it's too quick of a turnaround. You know what I mean? So, you know, I mean, that's why I said, yeah, we can do 7 to 10 days, but then, you know, if we catch them on a bad day, you know.
So maybe we'll address that on the next agenda item, which would be scheduled on 2 meetings, right? Figure that out, you know, we can kind of talk it through and see.
Yeah, I think that's key.
Right?
Yeah.
We have to know what the next.
Exactly, because I really, you know, now that we're here, you know, let's get those written down, and you know, something happens and, you know, we have to push the meeting out a week, okay? But let's put our best foot forward when we get to that agenda item and try to schedule that. Is there any other discussion on this motion? What, please take a vote.
The motion is strictly asking all 6 vendors for proposals.
Well, yes, and having,
Or
yeah,
choose.
giving and having, you know, I don't know if you have to add, you know, Peter to, work with Chris to get that done. I don't know, well, you can just give them. And before I take the vote, Chris, thank you for your work on this. Peter, thank you for coming in and speaking to us.
Councilor Rujo,
Yes.
Councilor Rubio,
Yes.
Elizabeth Marrera,
Yes.
Jason Pettinato.
Yes.
Chris Crawley,
Yes.
Kevin Miniotti,
Yes.
Kevin Barry.
Yes.
So it's 7-0.
Okay,
Roll call.
take the next item if you don't mind.
Item number 4, schedule the next 2 meetings. I will just take this up. Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Rubio, seconded by.
Second, I'll second it.
Miniati, thank you, that we take up the next topic, which is schedule next 2 meetings. So we were speaking about, you know, that if the maximum was 21 days, so maybe we look at that maximum in a week to, you know, get everything together. Does the committee feel comfortable, or does Peter and Chris, do you feel comfortable with maybe a 5-week between now and, let me see the calendar.
I would feel, I can get it set up, prior to me going on vacation.
Like tomorrow?
Well,
Yeah, you're going on vacation Friday?
yeah, but, I mean,
All right, hey,
Give
yeah, I
yourself
mean,
three.
attainable goals.
but I'm saying that, you know, I mean, I don't wanna wait until,
Prioritize.
It's not gonna be very.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't wanna wait, you know, I mean, there's some things that we can work prior. I don't wanna wait until the 25th, so
We need a vote.
I would say at least 5 weeks, we wanna,
The 24th, 6 weeks.
yeah.
That's Rosh Hashanah.
Mr. Barrett. Please, last time, 24.
Let's not do, the Hanukkah.
Let's not do it on Rosh Hashanah.
So,
Not that I have any, you know, whatever,
So if
but
that's the 24th is.
yes,
in,
Starts the 22nd.
How long is that for?
24th.
22nd.
2 days, I think.
22nd to 24th.
I got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I don't know if the city, they can get these companies to punch out numbers that quick. There's a lot to look at. And I feel if we rush this meeting to the end of September, we waited so long for this meeting. I think you might want to look towards like the middle of October. Give them a little bit longer. Let them sit there and look at this building to have
Yeah,
realistic
but we're
numbers.
not doing that
Yeah,
right now. We're
yeah.
getting the bids for them to look at the building. The first meet, the next, what we're getting is proposals for them to look at it. They're not looking at it. Then once we pick it, then it's after that, we can be looking at the company that we choose.
So they're gonna just go look at it. They won't.
They're just gonna give us a proposal,
Well, that's
an
what we get.
overview of what they would do.
Okay,
Their references, you know what I mean?
okay, so
And
they
then,
won't
like,
get into
you're
it.
picking, and then absolutely, we have to say, okay,
Now,
they should tell us in that we can add it in there, what would be the timeline? And that could be a decision that we could give more points on what is a turnaround? They could do it in 4 weeks, they can do it in 2 weeks. They can do it in 3
Okay,
weeks.
no, I just.
You know, like you said there.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
So I'm like, that's a lot to look at, that's why.
By the way, I need it finished by Saturday.
So this is just to allow them to come up with a bid. And
Okay.
as Peter said, the max is 21 days for this anyways. So with that being said, so Rosh Hashanah is what are the dates?
22nd to 24th.
22nd to 24th. Mr. Barry, would you, because maybe the following week, you think?
Just don't do it the first. That's even worse.
That's the problem.
That's your-
Right, but she is saying that the
30th,
The
30th.
30th, that's due.
I'm big on Thursdays, and I'll tell you why, because the folks at City Hall.
That's Yom
meet on
Kippur.
Thursdays, so to be cognizant of that.
I agree with Mr. Chair, actually, yeah, he's right.
So you would be looking at October 2nd.
Which is Yom Kippur.
Which is not a day you wanna do this.
Okay.
Yom Kippur.
What's that?
What about the 25th?
Then the 25th, yeah, maybe
Is the
that's.
25th part of the holiday?
No.
No, I think it ends on Wednesday. and-
Then 24th.
Yes.
What time would it be on the 25th?
Oh, no, we can't do the 25th. We've got commitments. Okay, let me see.
What about the 9th?
That might be October 9th. Well, that goes a little longer, but I mean, we don't have to do it Thursday. We could always do, sorry, guys, but we could always do a Monday or Tuesday. Wednesdays, we have council meetings every other, well, basically almost every other week.
And Mondays is tough for me, I have the zoning meetings, so
Oh, yeah.
Mondays,
But we gotta take that into consideration.
But that's the last in the-
first and last Monday of every month.
How about
The
the
9th.
30th?
No.
No, can't do the 30th either?
The 9th isn't really that far out.
All right,
Community.
If everybody can make it on the 9th,
October 9th.
so are we in agreement, October 9th, Thursday?
No.
yeah.
That's it. Yeah, this time, 5:30.
Yes,
Okay,
So just,
I have my
you know,
board
on
meeting, but I'll be
October
done.
9th,
on a Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be done by,
Oh,
4:30.
we have the juvenile hearing board
Already.
here.
If you know what, if we have any other agenda items, I'll put that ahead.
Yeah, cause I don't know, is anybody here on the 9th?
Juvenile
Yes.
hearing board.
Juvenile hearing board in this room.
Alright.
Can we
Okay.
do it out there then?
Can we do it with a council in the zoning?
Yeah, we can do it out there.
Smaller conference room.
We have 9 people, there's 9
It's a
small
whole lot
amount
of
of seats
seats in
there.
this area.
Yeah, the small conference room.
We can do that.
This is a lot bigger than the hall we're using in City Hall.
Yeah.
The third floor.
303.
Or the basement
Yeah,
that was
sure.
flooded.
Yeah, 207 is probably the size. of
Okay,
it.
so are we okay with October 9th for the next meeting?
Yeah.
To go over the RFQs that are submitted by the vendors that we have chosen.
And you wanted to schedule another meeting too?
So I wanna kind of get a general date and it could move, but I don't wanna lose traction, okay? We took a while to get to this point. Now it's time, now that we're getting this RFQ, proposals, we give them a timeline, to do it. And to Kevin's point, you don't wanna go too quick, but let them see when they can come back. But I think an honest thing would be, maybe 6 to 8 weeks after, the 9th to schedule a meeting.
And we're getting close to Thanksgiving now.
I know,
That's a bad
every
thing.
part of the year.
I mean, yeah, so
Something every
it's,
part of the year. What's the,
Rick, when do we have city council on for November? What are the dates?
In November, it's.
Is the 5th and the 9th?
and again, these meetings, if they have to be moved, they will, but I just would like to have a placeholder for it. And hopefully everything comes to fruition. Definitely the next one should be no problem.
It's the 5th and the 19th.
Okay, so
Well, wait a minute.
5th and the
No,
19th, right?
So why don't we do the 20th?
Yeah, so the 19th.
Council is the 19th.
I-
20th.
Can't do it?
I can't do it.
Okay. We can't do the 20th.
Thursdays of the month,
Are you anticipating by the second meeting to have, cost estimates
Mhm.
to submit?
We're gonna pick, the next meeting, we're gonna pick
Who
the
are-
RFQ.
Right,
And then the following meeting, they're gonna present, what
Right.
their facts are.
so,
Okay.
I mean, like Kevin said, now that's, you wanna give them, Yeah, you wanna give them some time to
Yeah.
go through the building, to make sure,
Okay, so what do you, what say you? What
let's
do you
say
think?
4 or 5 weeks is kinda,
That's kind of.
Yeah.
Well, how many weeks do we give? That's-
You give them
I think
8
that's the
weeks, you
question.
can go to first week, second week.
I
of
would say
December.
at least 8 weeks and then we can,
December 4th,
you know, and then we'll make sure in the proposal, we'll mention they give us their timeline of anticipated,
Does December 4th too good, or do you want to go to next week and
Is that
have
a
it
week of
December
city
11th?
council?
December 4th.
Is that a week of city council?
No.
Or-
I don't have to.
Perfect.
But that might be 1 week, a little less, right, because we're going to 9th, that'll only be about
That's
7
8
weeks. It is 8 weeks.
And then you could always go to the 11th, if they have everything
So why
ready
don't
on the
we
floor.
Make that the placeholder,
Yeah.
December 4th, if everybody's in agreement with that, we don't have to take a vote on it, right? All right,
You can say
So,
it's gonna be on.
if it moves out, it moves out. Okay?
And Rick will send us an email, right, correct?
And we should know at the
Like Charlie
time,
Jeff did the
on
first one.
on the 9th, when we review the proposals,
Mhm.
they're gonna say it's gonna be
Yeah.
4 to 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 2
Okay,
weeks, whatever it is, so then you know, what I mean, you can adjust it.
it's so different than in private, you know, you call a contractor out and you get a bid within three days, you get an estimate. This is like a lot of time. A lot of time. Wow, 8 weeks,
Yeah.
8 weeks. Wow, okay. Because they got the data, you know?
Yeah.
The big
It
thing
looks
is to
like
have the,
Fast.
to give them enough time, come back so we can have our meeting on the 9th
Yes,
and have the cubes of the qualifications for the, what sends it up. Their
right.
qualification.
And then this committee will decide who to go to. And by the way, that will, to Peter's point, if we have to go through the council, unless, you know, we'll look into that. Maybe I can ask, you know, to put on the agenda that the council gives us approval and authority to do this on our own. If we can't go that road and we have to go through the council, that's fine too. As far as picking, you know, allowing us to go, you know, under contract for somebody to do this next estimate. So we'll go through the proper choice channels, and that 8 weeks will give us some leeway, and if we have to move it out, because we have to go that extra step, then we'll move it out, but at least we have that placeholder, right? So I think that's important, so that everybody knows that we
I'll
are.
send out a save the dates.
Huh?
I'll send out a save the dates, and that way
Alright.
people will not try to schedule anything.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea. Great. Anybody else have anything else? Nope.
Sorry. For Chris, when your guidelines or requirements, or however you call it. Local, are we adding that in there?
We can't, right, Peter, we can't.
Okay, yeah, I was
You
wondering
can't give
about
them extra
legality.
points for local, but,
State company.
it's,
Yeah, we can, I mean, the only thing which I don't think any of these candidates strictly in the city.
None of them are the city.
None of them are,
Yeah.
let's say,
Yeah,
in the city, we do have a provision of the SOP where all things being equal, they do get.
I was just wondering
Yeah.
about that.
I mean, you know, yeah,
Can you actually,
it's tricky, that's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
but we will have the data, like I've seen it when I went through the RFPs for the schools. We had all the data where they were from, and actually, you know, they will actually with me. If they're doing their due diligence, they'll come up and say, we did this, a little more than this high level.
right?
Yeah.
Get a little more in depth of what they've done. And then that this committee can decide, hey, this might be the right way to go. You know, the best thing is always, you know, not, we don't like to go with the lowest, but you know, somebody's in the ballpark and they have a lot more experience, that'll be the low, you know. But we want to just try to save the taxpayers as much, and I think that's why we're trying to do a diligence here to really be, you know, do a comparison, so.
And you said the appraisal can't go hand in hand.
And we, yeah, I guess not, right, and
No, because you would be.
It's the same, I know it's not the same
We'll
vendor.
work and get like, a rough estimate of what a cost us, yeah, I mean,
what's that?
we can get a rough, just like Downs gave us an estimate of, a cost estimate. We can probably figure out what it would, you know, a rough estimate, so are we talking 5,000, 6,000, 7, I don't even know what.
I'll bring my
Appraisal.
checkbook back. Maybe.
If it's $6, you give us cash, right? But, you know, I mean, so this way we know what it's gonna cost, right?
Couldn't we,
They're saying.
couldn't we just have Bob Burns do it?
Professor.
No,
you would have
to have,
Yeah.
You have to have formal appraisal.
Yeah.
Just to get an idea.
Oh, no, he gets
Yeah.
them. I mean, he's like, Bob usually.
We had to do
if
one
need
for here.
The city,
Yeah.
Bob gets the company to do it.
yeah, he'll facilitate it.
Usually uses Bill Coyle a
Yeah,
lot of time.
Yeah.
Bill's usually the expert witness for the tax appraisal.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
For that represents the city.
Yes.
Okay, it's good stuff. All right,
I was just saying, we can, he'll be able to give us a ballpark of, you know, what I mean,
Right.
what it would cost. So at least the committee
yeah,
will
so
know
it's
next
good,
time.
yeah, the more information, the better, right? I'm all about that. It's very transparent.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Thank you.